David, MSOM 600, week 3 recap. I'm going to do things a little differently this week. You're not going to see my ugly mug this week, but I'm going to explain some of the key parts of the short answer exercise this week from um, really regarding APA. This is always probably the toughest week of the course. And the reason is because now you're jumping into APA, and APA is the um, program that we use here to make sure that you give credit to your sources, to make sure that you learn how to do research, to make sure that you format things properly. This is required in master's level programs. No matter how we try to make it about application, in order for us to get accredited, we have to do these things. And so, while folks don't necessarily like using APA, we have to use it as we go forward. Okay, so here's something to think about. So this week, what I wanted you to do here in week three, you received a lot of information here under read and study with different types of videos, links to the CSU online library to relate to citations, the reading and the APA manual. Again, a video here. This was the piece of paper that I used in this video. And then down here was another video on how to continue to search um, uh, for APA formatting tips. And then there was another lecture here on APA citations and references. So between the book, the videos, and all the other things, you were inundated this week with APA. So what you're going to see is in the grading of your papers this week on the short answers, you're going to see this, and this is sort of the answer sheet, if you will, for the citations and references portion of this. It will be at the end of your short answers that you submitted to me. This is going to be in there. So you're going to be able to see this and be able to compare what you submitted and then what the actual answer was. So I just want to go through this rather quickly. I won't go into all kinds of detail here, but these are important. And as I look at these, if you can get a firm handle on these 5 different ways to cite something and these 5 different ways to reference something, I would imagine it would probably cover about 75 to 80% of all your requirements for APA as it relates to citations and references. So understand this, okay? So the first citation was an author, um, just one author, and it had the year and the page number and all that. Now, APA does not require you to use the page number for paraphrased work. You are required to use it for a direct quote, but not for paraphrase. However, APA recommends that you do that. So in this exercise, I gave credit for both usages, but you may have a professor in this program who wants you to use page numbers. So I would just always default and put the page number in. So this is the way that you would cite that one author. Again, it's just the last name. You don't use the first initial. It's the year, and then it's page with P period, not PG period, but it's P period, and then the page number. And also, one of the things you get mixed up with sometimes, the period goes after the citation, not before it, okay? The second example was a direct quote by the same author. And so if you use this as a direct quote, you have to put the words in quotation marks that are the exact quote of what that author said. So beginning quotes there, end quotes there. Again, the rest of the same for the citation and the period at the end. The next one is 2 authors for that statement that is given. And here you use the last names of both authors and you use the ampersand in the middle, the year, and then again the page number with the period at the end. In 4, some of you got this wrong. In APA 7th edition that came out in, I think, 2019, this moved. And so anytime you have three or more authors, you will use the first author's name, and then you will put et al. Period, comma, 2020, p period 25, and then the period at the end. So three authors or more, you use et al. Okay? And then the last one, some of you got wrong as well. And this one had two authors, not of the same book. So Brown and Doe did not write the same book. They wrote two different books or two different articles. And so if there are two different articles that are saying practically the same thing, then the way that you put that in is you have Brown, comma 2020, comma p period 25, and then you use the semicolon, and then you put the second author's information there. Okay, so that's the piece for citations. Now let's get down to references. So your textbook here, the key thing that students miss all the time is they forget how to put the title correctly. So they'll end up capitalizing everything. Well, you don't do that. What happens is you capitalize the first word, and all subsequent words are lowercase letters, except the word immediately following a colon or a period or a question mark, or proper names. And read here as a proper name since it is one of the author's names. So the title of a book is also in italics. So the read guide for college writers, some of you capitalize G, C, and W, and that's not correct, okay? The second one is a journal article with two authors and a DOI. Just so you know, a DOI, for those of you who've been around for a while, back in the day, whenever you'd go to a library, you'd have to go to a card catalog, and the card catalog would tell you where in that library your particular book, article would be located. Well, a DOI is the digital version of that, and that is really, really important today. Not all of the works that you will find will have DOIs, but many of them will. And so it's an easy way to find that electronically now. And so this journal article has two authors and a DOI. So you have the last name of the author. And also, some of you, for whatever reason, the first author, you did not put the first author's first initial. Doesn't, I mean, you have to have the first initial on all of your authors here. So it's Smith, comma, M period. So if in your paper you're not including the first initial of your first author you've listed here, that's incorrect. You have to make sure that you use the first initial. And then the title of the journal article, Working Adults in Higher Education, see, capital W, all subsequent words, lowercase letters. And then the name of the journal is in italics. The volume number here is in italics as well. The other number here is not in italics, okay? So only the volume number is in italics. And then you have the page numbers here. You do not use a P or a P period or a PG period. You just use the numbers, and it's the range of the article, because these journals have, sometimes there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages by the end of a particular period. And so this is part of that particular journal, but it's in pages 100 to 150. And then you have the DOI at the end, okay? Here is one for the journal article with one author and no DOI. Again, the same thing applies. Capitalize the first word, lowercase for the rest. The name of the journal is in italics as well as the volume number. Now, since there is no DOI, APA 7th edition recommends not including the web address. If you put the web address in here for this one, I probably gave you credit for it. But just know that since there is no DOI, APA, it does not recommend you use the web address, okay? And so this is a website with two authors. So you have the first name, the last name, first initial, last name, first initial, the year, and the actual date. And then you have the title of the website, Working Adults in Higher Education. If this is an article from that, that's what you put in. Again, same thing applies, capital W, small a, small h, small e, and then the web address there, okay? And in this one, since it is a website article, the web address is important. Um, so let's see, the final one here, a website with one author and a DOI. Pretty self-explanatory, but the same type of setup here. Capital W, small letters for the rest. The title of the journal is capitalized and also in italics. The volume number is in italics, and you include the DOI here. The DOI always takes precedence. Now, some of you included a DOI and a web address and the database location. That's not correct. If you have the DOI, you don't include anything else, okay? So hopefully this is helpful for you. You'll be able to see that in your paper as you go forward. But again, I've attached this to all of your short answers so you can use it as a reference. If you have any questions, let me know. Take care.